In the summer of 1940, Germany shocked the world. No one expected France to fall so quickly. Winston Churchill was determined to continue the war and had expected France to hold out. After the disaster at Dunkirk, however, peace with Germany became a serious option, especially because Hitler's public peace proposals towards Britain appeared surprisingly moderate. It was a difficult decision that ultimately paid off, but at the time it was far from popular. So, what if Britain had accepted Germany's peace offers? What would such a peace treaty have looked like? After the fall of France, let's assume Churchill is deposed and Lord Halifax becomes Prime Minister. Germany's terms would likely have been relatively favorable towards Britain because, ideologically, Hitler admired the British Empire and regarded the English as a fellow Germanic people. The United Kingdom would probably have been allowed to keep its empire, perhaps under certain guarantees or even German protection. In return, Britain would simply have had to recognize Germany's new territorial gains. Starting in Eastern Europe, there would be no hope of restoring Poland. The Danzig corridor would be permanently annexed into Germany, while the enslavement and forced labor of Poles and Jews in the general government would continue. In the West, Luxembourg would be directly annexed into Germany, while the administrative regions of Rijkskommissariat Belgian Noord-Frankrijk and Rijkskommissariat Nederland would eventually be integrated into the Reich. France would lose Nord-Pas-de-Calais, which would be integrated in Rijkskommissariat Belgian Noord-Frankrijk, and Alsace-Lorraine would once again become part of Germany. Hitler would no longer see the need to occupy northern France and would instead rely on a friendly, puppet-like French government. Germany would no longer have to worry about a Western front or maintaining large occupation forces in Western Europe, allowing more manpower and resources to be redirected eastwards. It could also probably count on greater military and economic cooperation from Vichy France, as well as a larger number of European volunteers. Britain ending the blockade would also allow Germany to regain access to much of the global market, reducing its dependence on Soviet raw materials during the early stages of the war and easing the severe oil shortages that plagued Germany later in the conflict. Without British involvement in Yugoslavia, the 1941 coup would probably never take place, leaving Germany with a friendly government in the Balkans. This could allow Operation Barbarossa to begin several weeks earlier, giving Germany a better chance of reaching Moscow before winter. Capturing Moscow would represent a major political and logistical victory, although whether this alone would have forced the Soviet Union to collapse remains highly debatable. Italy would also find itself in a far stronger position. Without fighting the British in North Africa or facing the Royal Navy and the RAF in the Mediterranean, it would likely defeat Greece without requiring a major German intervention. Turkey would still be unlikely to join the Axis and keep the neutrality. However, Iran would also become far more likely to join the Axis. Germany could realistically support Iran with troops and equipment, opening another front against the Soviet Union while securing additional access to Middle Eastern resources. Iran would probably be promised some territories like Azerbaijan, but with German resource rights. In this scenario, Germany's chances of pushing Soviet forces beyond the Urals, or at least forcing a prolonged stalemate in Siberia, would increase dramatically. Germany would control much of the Soviet Union's population, agriculture, and industry, while the Red Army would be forced to defend vast territories with poor infrastructure and difficult supply lines. Even so, a Soviet surrender would remain unlikely, especially considering Hitler's long-term plans for the Slavic population. A German victory in the East would also allow to resume its long-term naval ambitions. With access to Soviet resources and no immediate war against Britain, Germany could eventually revive plans similar to Plan Z and build a fleet capable of challenging British naval supremacy, fundamentally altering the balance of power in Europe. What do you think would have happened in this scenario? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.